Chill here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and this is part two of this energy reading. We're still with the energies of the upcoming March eclipse. And I was stopping at the fact that girls couldn't come to the world in recent years for the collective that I'm reading. Um, because even when the boys are trafficked, they are feminized as a ritual abuse. And this is something that, now here's the thing, if there wouldn't be people trying to have a girl or even pregnant with a girl um, in the crowd, then this issue wouldn't come up as strongly because those girls are trying to come to the world, but the world needs to prepare for them. When the world needed to prepare for boys, if I try to recalibrate what the things that I saw, a lot of the discussion about the boys that rape boys in the secret societies and boys needing to have a father, and the Saturn was in Pisces, so a lot of discussion about zero slavery society, um, the more creative children, and so on. Um, and as the girls are trying to come to the world, or people are trying to bring children to the world, and these children are supposed to be girls, we really can't evade all of the archetypes that were swiped under the rug, and even people managed to bring boys with these things still swiped under the rug. Now, it's not that they managed to bring boys with these things, they dealt with a shit ton of things that allowed for boys to be, because these boys will have loving mothers and loving fathers. Unless these girls are not allowed to be. Okay? That's the Epstein bar. And because the ritual abuse was feminizing also the boys, and it was masculating the girls, sometimes by force. Then what we get as a result is we've dealt with a lot of the things that allowed boys, and another issue, another thing that comes up. For example, I only today learned that women that have picture of themselves wearing makeup or updated picture of themselves are in risk of being trafficked. I had no idea. I consecrated a lip gloss with simply because I had nothing to consecrate. So I consecrated a lip gloss with Venus Pisces and yeah, and then a Balgari. Okay, and how on earth do we expect girls to come to the world with such? And yet, statistically, some of the children that will be born, if people are trying to get pregnant or trying to have a baby right now, or are pregnant, will be girls, or they're supposed to be girls. And this is why we're breaking the glass ceiling of the Epstein bar. Now, people, we dealt with a lot of demons as society in recent years. Nothing like the demons we are dealing with before the girls are arriving to the world. Okay? One of the reasons that I didn't bring children myself was because I knew that I, I'm the girl. So as long as I am still, I don't know, working on my shadow self and so on and so forth, in as much as it's dependent on me, then I'm the girl. Fortunately for me, the stress to bring children wasn't coming from my parent, but we're living in a very weird society. There are even people that wanted people to be parents so that they will also suffer. But okay, just think how abusive to children is that. So so that the boys will not be abusive to their moms as they grow teenagers, the girls need to be allowed to arrive to the world. And I do predict we'll see a lot of breaking of the threshold. Whether it was the I was a tomboy because it wasn't safe to be a girl trend, which is amazing. Uranus in Taurus has been trying to liberate the woman archetype, the girl archetype, since 2018. And to have girls in this day and age with Uranus also tells us it's beta per se topics. Lilith reminds us that the world has already been in trying to force people to bring children, bring in children from girls instead of from women. Um, Cloning projects, secret societies, the sacred whore. The world has already been there. And there are going to be fated events where that Lilith is going to call out everybody that's tempted to thread those threads. And Lilith is not avoiding the topic of sexuality. For these boys to be safe, these girls need to be safe as well. Because what they do to the girls, they do to the boys. If your environment is not safe for girls, they will look for girls and they will kidnap boys and force them to be girls. Annika Lucas, the episode with Sven Cole. Sven Cole was a boy and he was dressed up as a girl. When the girls got pregnant, the 12 years old girls that hit puberty, don't illude yourself that you're going to grow a happy, thriving boy without abolishing the Epstein bar. Lilith reminds us that we've began a certain process, um, we began a certain transformation in society. And she's holding accountable what doesn't follow through. We began to purge the Peter rings with everything that's the root cause around them. I said drop the Peter rings. I am Saturn, Neptune, 0 degree Aries, dropping the Peter ring. And everybody has an I am. There isn't anybody that didn't know anybody. Now people like Shirley Whale. Where the Falcon? I don't know. Maybe the missing. The missing. Um, now, this society, and this is where we run the risk of, how should I say that? It doesn't look like a mass death eclipse in itself. Um, but definitely, the fact that this topic is going to affect the people and all of their natural inclinations. In fact, one of the content creators we had that was trafficking survivor herself, suddenly her daughter went through something in church. Okay? And I think that where we talk about, if we think locations, Mars is also in Pisces. So we think about community centers, unfortunately also detainment centers, um, religious community centers of any religion. Lilith is the sign of fire. Okay, Lilith is in the fire sign of Jupiter. And I'd already seen these things. We had that when we had the double, triple, quadruple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, Sun, Venus in Capricorn, and churches were burning. Now, whatever is behind this, okay, I don't see the 22 here. I don't see the 11th here. I don't see the 18th here. I do see the 15th, which can be accidental fires in children care centers, particularly of religious or somewhat orientation, and detainment centers or military hospitals. Lilith is in a fire sign, folks. 15 is accident. Fire and water are not mixing well this eclipse. A good oil to think about is tagetes or marigold. Those two mix fire and water. The marigold is a mix of fire and water. Um, Malachite, snowflake obsidian. Now again, those of course very general for people. Um, if it doesn't work for a person, then okay, I'm not. And if it is essential oil, tagetes never to use topically. I know there's dilution in that. I'm not your aromatherapist right now. Um, in other settings, I would dilute that, but it's only for scent for the burner, not to touch, not to use topically. Highly phototoxic. But also the other recommendations, and yes, as usual, consult before if you take any medication and so on. Um, all the essential oils are detoxifiers, so understand that function in your considerations. And for the malachite and snowflake obsidian, um, again, not for everybody, because those eclipses dredge up the psychosexual issues anyway. Then malachite could be very compatible to literally saying, okay, anyway, the Epstein list is out. Anyway, that thing is out. Anyway, we're gonna have to deal with the real issues. So having a work with the malachite can facilitate those things. Yes, of course, to the Netherlanders, I mean, in Ausland. So, the eclipse of, how should I say, also the eclipse we had, it wasn't the lightest of eclipses. On the day of the eclipse, there were really, really challenging stuff. Afterwards, it got a little bit better. Um, okay, with the Venus Rahu, but this eclipse is, it doesn't tell of itself as much as it is. But that Lilith square in the nodes is a big deal. Okay, it's a very big deal. And the thing it dredges up, very, very big deal. It's also a healer. It was tending to the teeth and the connection of emotional trauma, particularly relations to wisdom teeth and teeth around them. Now, do you think that the people that are collectively healing teeth holistically, which is, by the way, Saturn Neptune is such a fantastic time to tend to this topic, are not going to figure out the root of the problem on a collective mass scale? Wisdom teeth to do with the heart, then the liver meridian, then I think the spleen. The ability to be receptive, and the society that allows a person to be receptive, not try to parentify them again. Um, which, of course, wealth, resources. When adults bring children with children, everybody feels lack. And then they think they need to enslave someone. Now, with Uranus going through Libra, we have already been living in society where people can divorce. People expect to have equal power in relationships. Okay, before Melania Trump came with her movie, I remember 2, 3 years ago when I was looking at Donald Trump's chart, his ascendant Leo and Pluto was just about to ingress to Aquarius. That would be seventh house, and I'm like, this guy's been through a lot because he's been in an equal business partnership with a woman, and then he kind of tried to tone it down and then married Melania. But I was like, no, 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 no. It's coming up. It's coming up. He's going to deal again with a woman that is of equal power to him. And now we see this movie by Melania. Okay, whatever we think about, um, whatever we think about the couple, Pluto going to the seventh house is indeed. I had a colleague astrologers. Pluto went to the seventh house of the husband. The Missy began to have international business, and she's literally stated that it was very important for her to have equal power to her husband, and that was um, okay. So Leo ascendants are definitely having an equilibrium transit. Aquarius ascendants are the recipients of that. Okay, for example, Neptune was going through Pisces. Virgo ascendants would have um, would have undergone with dealing with issues of codependency and evasion in relationships. Uh, us Pisces ascendants were either the ones that they were codependent on, or eventually, um, because there are oscillations, or eventually um, had to grow from being codependent, the codependent partner, or something like that. Um, and then the Virgo counterparts had to, or the Virgo ascendant counterparts had to deal with their partner no longer being codependent, or deal with themselves no longer being codependent. And what was that codependence underlying? It also dealt with evasions. Now, both Pisces definitely has the slippery fish. um, it's both codependent and evasive. so, um, so that was, now the Libras are dealing with whatever it is they're dealing with. I don't know. um, but what I'm saying is, we already had divorces. We already had marriages of equal power. Um, the expectation is to move to even more authentic, equal, thriving, successful, joyous, loving, intimate, sensual relationships where girls can come to the world. Now, previously, if a girl would come to the world, it would be where the mother would have been very authentic to herself. Even if not all the things would be figured out, there's some very deep authenticity of the mother. But I think about my mother, it was like, I want natural birth. I want a birth from someone with his love, with his in love. And I saw it also in other women. Some women had to learn how to let go, but also when they um, were allowing themselves to be. Some of them had to let go of the desire to have a girl, and then they had a girl. But they were also caretaking for women, or they were put in a position where they were caretaking for women that was in recovery from. Basically, what they needed to show is that it's okay to be a woman in this world. And to the degree where it was okay to be a woman in this world, then girls did come to the world. Um, so for girls to come to the world right now, the topics at hand are of sexuality. And I even see women, there were certain women, whether it's the 40s or 50s, whether it was Uranus opposition or so on, that even if they previously were married for many years and so on and so forth, one sudden day, and thinking to explore their, okay, uh, um, sexual relations and emotional relations. To live separately from the husband. By the way, couples that live in separate houses usually have better relationships. And then there were the trafficking scams. Men in this following years have to show up as men to show that they can. And here's why do we have all these better per se stories? Girls that were filmed without their knowing, revenge porn, the horrid things that are done in secret societies, whether with AI, not with AI, smear campaigns that someone is sex worker where they're not. There's no such thing as sex worker, but whatever. Why is it all happening? Because the girls are trying to come to the world, and women are going through understanding how the archetype of the girl was not embedded in society. Nobody actually defended these women. Women were not defending these women. Sometimes it was so much so that the men that raped women were more defensive of women than some women. Okay, for Annika Lucas, for example, it was a guy who raped her, then smuggled her out. Where her mother was like thinking that she was the best parent and so on and so forth. It's kind of like a guy who's busy raping girls, spreading snuff, smear campaigning, finds himself angry at how the mother responds. Parents think that children were not speaking with them because of I don't know what, or because of smear campaigns, where in fact the children were not speaking with them because they were smear campaigning people that said no during the Me Too. Okay, just think of how sad it is. A parent or a mother think that already dealt with ostracization, being ostracized and so on and so forth, thinking, oh, now they got to the child, da 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 da. Child comes up to say there's a broadcast, so and so sexually harassed so and so, and the mother goes like, yeah, these the sluts, they go up the ladder through the panties and so on and so forth. Daughter understands well. I mean, they tried to traffic me in academia, but there's no point to talk to this person right here because it's I don't know, intergenerational gap, and I need to keep my sanity and recover from that pedo ring trafficking academic. Now the parent think, oh, the child doesn't speak to me because they got into the child too. All these ostracized. The child is like, okay, how, I'm not gonna watch this parent thinking that that person that tried to traffic me just didn't have daughters and was being like our father when he was and, like, and ask you, hey, why don't you maybe talk to the? I'm not gonna watch that dumb fuckery again. I'm not gonna watch them saying that thing again about the sluts to move up the ladder. Like they got issues with themselves, their psychosexual problems. I need to take care of me. If I'm gonna unalive myself, they wouldn't even understand why. And to live, I need to basically go no contact for a while. And then people try to bring girls to the world and trying to push people that took the space to recover their inner child to be the ones that bring children. I'm like, wait a second, I'm still a child. I am the child. I'm not the parent. All these attempts to forcibly juxtapose people, they end up in big disgust because, first of all, person cannot even keep hygiene where they don't. For all these rituals that they do, a person cannot even. I'm sorry. wash themselves after going to the bathroom. Because there are people trying to astrally project to interfere with that, even. So people become disgusting to one another. Because what is disgust? It's supposed to reject unwanted sexual interactions. And meanwhile, people try to bring children. What about the girls? And the men that think that they're gonna be father, or that their children are gonna keep them from unaliving themselves, are still struggling to be able to be a father to a girl, which means going through all the archetypes of what it means to be a girl and a woman in the world. What happens when the children that were keeping the father from unaliving themselves will try to unalive themselves, because of what happens also to boys in societies where girls and women cannot be girls and women. People cannot just close the topic, change the subject, because it's not resolved. And when it's not resolved, it keeps popping up in more and more ways in society. And Lilith also reminds us that the gods and the beliefs and the practices and the rituals, it's a Pisces stellium. Okay, Lilith is the one that pulls the scripture and says, Falcon, this is what you read every day when you pray. And then you try to go and have babies and bring a girl. Or keep the boy alive, happy, thriving, not suicidal. There's a generation that unalive themselves because they were bullied at school. As teenagers, they unalive themselves. 99% of this bullying is feminization and seeing the feminine as a derogatory. Now there also began to be another kind, which I began to see, which was the believing that the response should be to rape men. Now those are all driven by the same financiers. Actual feasible solutions are standing a lot of challenge. And we can't swipe things under the rug with we can't swipe things under the rug. It's like the sister of Pluto. When Lilith was in Cancer, all I wanted was a hug. Why? Because Cancer is about nourishment and Lilith is about being authentic in our sexuality. What authentically was I seeking? A hug. Your entire country needs a hug is an acceptable jab. It's and they'll get it, I understand. We say the Dutch one or the Israeli one? Beide. Uh, so, like I said, there isn't anybody that didn't know anybody. um, we've crossed the threshold where it's possible to have a loving relationship between um, the one that protects from those things and her covering up for him where he commits those things that he protects from. That threshold was crossed um, because girls can't grow into a world like that. Inspired by the death truth. The last point was the death truth. The death truth. Um, so, the quest for a woman is not so feminist. How should I say that? Yes, not. And the more disillusioned people were, the more they had to realize it in more obvious ways. The more insistent they were that some lady will meet their patriarch needs, the more they ran into a Lilith. Even in ongoing relationships. Okay, even in ongoing relationships, there are many phases in relationships. If they were seeking, you know, a good Mormon wife, and they're thinking, oh, maybe they'll find it in that, particularly if it was the case where everybody's coping mechanism was such that somebody was growing into the recipient mode, and then somebody that was supposed to set them up developed something. So in that situation, one could think, oh, she's going to be the submitting girl. It's like, nah, she's she's 17, 10 times billion worse than the one you got at home. So, but no disillusionment. And the people that got that quickly understood. Okay, I was like, okay, were the people that were caught up in some sort of um, insisting that, or that they felt entitled to receive sexuality from someone. This is what I'm talking about in patriarch needs. There's a difference between acknowledging our need in intimacy and feeling entitled to receive intimacy from someone. All of these things are underlying those perceptions that I call the courtesan cartisan. The belief that there is such thing as sex work. How many men got ritually abused and psychically attacked because they believe that there is such thing as sex work? Or even assassinated. How many men become upset where they felt entitled to sexuality or intimacy, and when that didn't happen, they began to spread a smear campaign? How many people held so tightly to the satanic perception of sex that it Epstein list exposure collapsed on them? What was it, 30 million files? It's a societal collapse. And into that, girls are trying to, okay, there's this issue of girls being born, girls to parents, or the pressure to bring children, and then usually one of the partner wants also a girl, not really, again, in not in all couples, but not really understanding what does it mean to have a girl, daughter, because they are going to, before, and I saw it with the boys, before a girl comes to the world, they're going to run into the most challenging archetypes of girls for them. You know, before the boys came to the world, boys are usually, we think about the man as hardworking, masculine, and so on and so forth. When Saturn was in Pisces, it was the Nick Drakes, the poets, the artists coming to the world, not the industrial society workers. How much arguments were about the people don't want to work, Gen Z doesn't want to work, they don't want to work, da, 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 da. People targeting individuals, making of individual cash cows. If it's like, are you trying to have are you trying to have a boy with Saturn in Pisces? You're trying to have that. You're bringing to the world Nick Drake. You're killing him before he even left the womb. Fortunately, he's alive. Oh. Now with the girls, the most challengingest of archetypes. Ah, recording. Recording. Okay. The most challenging of archetypes. Oh, it's a third party. Um, were you trying to bring another baby to the world? What if she's a girl? Because this is not a third party. This is a child. But they're adult. But they're edited psychologically. Child. They were working to meet their inner child needs, not their sexual needs. And when that happened, then they were susceptible because they were in a child state. They trusted somebody. And that is what you called third party. Okay? This is really challenging. This is really challenging because right before a girl comes to the world, it's like, who would you think the worst of worst of worst of worst? Meet your daughter. Meet your daughter. What she is dealing with is what your daughter would be dealing with if you gave birth to a daughter today.